Salve, ego sum Irene, magistra linguae latinae, and this video will be in English. I've already made a video when I go through the books you can read during your reading of Familia Romana, and this will be the same video but in English, almost the same because I haven't scripted it. First, sorry if my English is not perfect, I'm trying to do my best. However, I know that many people reading Familia Romana, the first part, pars prima of the series Lingua Latina per se illustrata, are wondering which books should they read as they go through this one, through Familia Romana. So this book leads you from zero to a good knowledge of basic Latin. It's a great book that will teach you many words, many constructions, and will help you have a solid understanding of simple Latin. As you are going through this book, you can also do the pensa, some exercises. Some pensa are already in the book. After each chapter, you have tria pensa, three types of exercises, which are pensum A, pensum B, pensum C. If you want to complement this pensa and do other exercises, you can use this book, Latine Disco, or even Exercitia Latina. They are basically the same book, but in two different editions. One is older, one is more recent. And you also have Nova Exercitia Latina by Roberto Carfagni, edited by himself and by Vivarium Novum, the same publisher, the same Italian publisher of the Lingua Latina per se illustrata series. So that's for the pensa. You have pensum A, B, C, after each chapter in Familia Romana. Then you have other pensa, Exercitia Latina, and additional pensa, Nova Exercitia Latina. So you have plenty of them. In Familia Romana, there are 35 chapters. If you want to complement your reading, you can read two different books. You can read Colloquia Personarum, that sometimes is contained in Latine Disco, sometimes is edited separately, Colloquia Personarum, which are 24 colloquia, so dialogues, between the same persona and the same characters in Familia Romana. You should read one of them after each chapter in Familia Romana. So, for the first 24 chapters in Familia Romana, you can read the 24 Colloquia Personarum and then do the pensa. Once Colloquia Personarum are over, you are not left alone, but you can read Fabulae Syrae. Syra is a slave in the book, and she tells stories apparently. So in Fabulae Syrae, you will find fables, tales, with mythological subjects that Syra tells. These tales cover from chapter 26 to 35, so through the end of the book. So that's it. While you are reading Familia Romana, you can do the pensa, the ones in the book, Exercitia Latina and Nova Exercitia Latina, and you can complement with Colloquia Personarum during the first chapters and Fabulae Syrae during the second half of the book. I don't recommend reading other books unless you really feel you need it, because especially in the first steps of your Latin learning journey, I see with my students that it's most beneficial to focus on only one approach. So that's why I recommend books from the same publisher, Vivarium Novum, even if you could read other books. However, I think it's most beneficial to focus on the same approach, the Lingua Latina per se illustrata approach, let's say, and not overwhelm yourself with many different books. So here are some links where you can purchase the books I talked about. And in the next video, I'll be talking about the books you can read after Familia Romana and before Roma Aeterna, and the ones you can use to complement your reading of Roma Aeterna, which is part 2 of Familia Romana, part 2 of Lingua Latina per se illustrata. By the way, I know that many are eager to start reading Latin literature, even in the early stages of the process. If you are among them, you will like my beginner course Gustatio Linguae Latinae, because for each chapter in Familia Romana, I adapted an excerpt of Latin literature to suit the level of the current chapter. You can use the link below to subscribe the newsletter and be informed of the next opening of the course. Okay, so that's for Familia Romana. What to do, what to read once you have completed Familia Romana, part 1 of Lingua Latina per se illustrata. There is part 2, indeed, Roma Aeterna, which tells the story of Rome in Latin. Roma Aeterna is made of authentic texts, sometimes partly simplified and explained with the same system of Lingua Latina per se illustrata pars prima. However, many learners find the gap between Familia Romana and this book to be too wide, too huge. So if you are one of them and if you want to read some other books between Familia Romana and Roma Aeterna, please stay with me. My first advice is to reread Familia Romana, because Familia Romana is a book so rich that every time you reread it, you will find new information and you will have new insight. While you are rereading Familia Romana, you can also read additional books from the same publisher, Vivarium Novum. In my experience, I see that it's best to stick with the same publisher until you have reached a point where you can read almost everything, because you won't feel lost in another approach. For the sake of this video, I'll be using a super useful chart created by Casper Porton, founder of Adisco Onderwijs, a Latin language school based in the Netherlands. Ergo gratias, Caspari. So between the two books, Familia Romana and Roma Aeterna, there are 4 books you can read from the same publisher, which are Sermones Romani, De Bello Gallico, Amphitruo et Epitome Historiae Sacrae. Amphitruo contains part of the comedy by Plautus, Amphitryon. You will find the comedy, the text, explained with the same marginal systems and the same pictures type you find in Familia Romana. Then you have Sermones Romani, which is a collection of different authors and different texts, such as Phaedrus, Tacitus, Plautus again, Horatius, Plinius, et ali. Then you have De Bello Gallico, excerpts from Commentari De Bello Gallico by Caesar, by Julius Caesar. And you also have Epitome Historiae Sacrae. This book is edited by Roberto Carfagni, but originally written by the French Abbé Carolus Franciscus Lomont, Abbé Lomont in French. As the title says, you'll find some adaptations of biblical stories. They're illustrated with the same approach, the same system. You will find pictures and useful exercises and little word games. Now it's time to transition to Roma Aeterna. You may want to take it slowly because, as I said, this book is not as gradual and as simple, as smooth as Familia Romana, even if this is a great book as well. During the reading of Roma Aeterna, you can also read some other books from the same publisher to vary a little bit and to start tasting some text from the actual Roman literature. So you can read Aeneis and Bucolica Carmina, both pieces of poetry by Virgil. Here are some extracts from Book 1 and 4 of the Aeneid, and here are some Bucolica Carmina, some lyrical poems by Virgilius. You can read extract from De Rerum Natura, Lucreti, and in the second half of Roma Aeterna you may want to complement with Cena Trimalchionis by Petronius and Catilina, which contains text about the conjuration of Catilina by Sallust and Cicero. Again, you find some helpful links to acquire the books here below. Make sure you search from the publisher or the resellers in your area, because this Domus Editoria, this publisher, is based in Italy, but they sell all over the world. And now you know everything. As said before, this is not an exhaustive video, which means that there are other books like Pugio Bruti by Daniel Peterson and The Lover's Course by Carla Hurt you can use to complement your readings of Lingua Latina per se illustrata. However, in this video, I really wanted to focus on the books that are using exactly the same approach and which are edited by the same publisher. So you have a clear roadmap to follow, a clear base. You can then decide to supplement and complement even more. But I want to tell you that especially Familia Romana doesn't need to be complemented. That book is already a universe by itself. So just by sticking to Familia Romana, you will learn Latin, you will navigate the basics of the Latin language and be able to move forward afterwards. However, if you want to add variety to the thing, then read Colloquia Personarum and Fabulae Surae. You also have Fabellae Latinae, which are a collection of tales about many different subjects. But again, I recommend to only pick one book or two books. But I really recommend avoiding overwhelming with many different resources. Sometimes it's better to stick to one book at a time than to fly here and there between different books. Bene, like this video if you find it useful, share it, subscribe to my newsletter to keep updated about my future course offerings, and gratias tibi ago, vale!